There's just this undeniable allure to long-distance train travels in there, especially around the holidays when everything else is just chaos.
It really is. We're all so caught up in this modern rush, the need to be fast, efficient, get on a plane. But when you get on a train, you're locked in.
Right. It's this deliberate, rolling world where you're forced to slow down. Discovery isn't optional, it's mandatory.
It's the ultimate counterpoint to our velocity culture. You're trading speed for experience. And while the train is pulling you across a continent, that confined space, it forces this intense human drama to unfold.
And that is exactly what we're doing today. We're taking a deep dive into a really extensive collection of sources that detail one of these journeys, a transcontinental trip from the East Coast all the way to Los Angeles.
It's a trip that is just fraught with logistical problems, unexpected environmental crises, and, well, a surprising amount of deeply personal drama.
So our mission today is much more than just a travelogue. We're going to try and extract the key insights from this whole multi-layered story. We'll be analyzing the sheer mechanics of the railroad, the eccentric and often tightly wound people on board.
And how circumstances, both accidental and, as we'll see, very much manufactured, collide to reveal what's really motivating everyone.
Exactly. We're going to find out precisely why our main character decides his breaking point wasn't covering a war, but realizing that, and I'm quoting here, a guy can only take so many of those airport security search wands.
The source material is it's incredibly rich. You've got these detailed character profiles, but they're woven in with these really specific critical technical facts about the trains. It gives you this unique kind of microscopic snapshot of American train culture, where human destiny is literally following tracks that were laid down, a century ago.
So let's start with him. Let's start with the reluctant traveler himself and the very specific event that forced him off planes and onto the rails. Okay, so our main character, our reluctant nomad, is Tom Langdon. He's a 41-year-old newsman.
He fits that classic mold, the rugged, world-weary correspondent. The sources describe him having deep lines etched on his face from reporting in windswept desert climates with bullets flying.
But I love the little detail here, the self-deprecating insight. He actually admits those lines probably came from having his face down in the sand following safety regulations, not from some fearless act of bravery.
Yeah, but what's really crucial to understanding his state of mind is the personal upheaval that's fueling this whole journey.
Right, this isn't just about a job.
Not at all. He's grappling with this enormous loss. He'd recently lost both of his parents, his mother to a stroke, his father a few years before that, and as an only child, he's left feeling completely untethered. Alone.
So he's taking stock of his life.
He is. He looks at his career, which is impressive. A truckload of newsprint, some awards. But on the other side of the ledger, a failed marriage, no kids. And he looks at all of it and delivers this harsh verdict on himself. A miserable excuse for an existence.
And that introspection, it zeroes in on one thing, one person, really.
His greatest regret. It's the emotional engine for this whole story. His failure to marry Eleanor Carter. He realizes that watching her walk away all those years ago would forever be the major mistake of his life.
Not a professional mistake, but a failure of the heart.
Exactly. It's a classic tragic setup. He's regretting the woman who got away, but at the same time, he's in this incredibly convenient, very distant relationship with Lelia Gibson.
Lelia. She's described as a force of nature in her own right.
Absolutely. The golden pipe voiceover queen for these huge Saturday morning cartoons. She's the voice of characters like Cuppy the Magic Beaver.
The contrast there is just fantastic. Tom is out dealing with, literal existential risks, and Lelia is the voice of cheerful cartoon fun.
And yet, what drew her to him was that she was just exhausted by the men in Hollywood. As she puts it, her male peers were complete and total lying scum and unreliable to boot.
So Tom, the newsman, was an upgrade because he occasionally dealt with the truth.
A massive upgrade in her world. But their relationship is really defined by avoidance. It's an informal bicoastal item, an alliance that works purely because of the separation.
So they actively avoided all the messy parts of a real relationship.
Religiously. They avoided the complex hurdles facing couples who actually cohabitated. The mundane stuff, who does the dishes, whose career comes first. The distance was this perfect firewall, and it protected Tom from the very commitment he was so afraid of.
And this whole convenient setup was working just fine, until the outside world violently intervened.
Which brings us directly to the source of his new travel problem, the LaGuardia meltdown.
The meltdown, right. So he's flying back from Italy, from researching a winemaking fluff piece.
And crucially, imbibing more of the subject matter than he probably should have. So he's dealing with a monumental hangover. He's tired, he's cranky, he's already on fumes.
And you can just imagine the scene, right? That's the worst possible state to be in when you're facing airport security.
It pushed him straight past his breaking point. We all know how violating security can feel, but he gets the full treatment. A search wand smacked delicate things on his person.
Ooh.
Then a second agent, maybe out of spite or just clumsiness, dumps his entire carry-on onto the conveyor belt. So there's toothpaste, notebooks, dirty socks, all out there for everyone to see.
A public humiliation, basically.
And then comes the final bureaucratic absurdity. After all this, an agent tells him with maximum seriousness that a major warning flag has been raised.
Warning flag for what?
That's the thing. It wasn't for anything tangible. They suggested it could be his ID, his hair color, his clothes, or, this is the key detail, the size of his nose.
The size of his nose? You can't make that up.
They were never clear on the specific offense, just the consequence. Instead of flying to Texas for his next story, he's going to have a long chat with federal personnel.
And that vagueness, that institutional indifference, that's what finally cracked him.
That was it. Tom's a big guy, 6'2", 220 pounds of fairly hard muscle.
Yeah.
His eruption, as the sources put it, involved language he ordinarily wouldn't use within 4 miles of any church.
And he grabs the search wand.
That symbol of invasive control, and just snaps it cleanly in half.
Okay, wait. If he snapped the wand, that's physical aggression. He must have faced serious charges for that, right?
He should have. But fate, or maybe just good luck, intervened. He got rousing cheers from some of the other passengers, which probably helped.
A little moral support from the crowd.
But more importantly, the magistrate he appeared before had recently had an extremely overzealous airport security experience of their own.
Ah, so they were sympathetic.
Shared a knowing look with Tom. And to top it off, that dreaded red flag turned out to be a classic administrative error.
So he got a reduced sentence.
Exactly. A stern warning, mandatory anger management classes. But the real consequence, the one that changes his life, was a 2-year ban on flying within the continental U.S.
And this is where his perspective shifts completely. Instead of seeing this ban as a huge inconvenience,
he has an epiphany. He sees it as an omen, a sign that he needed to stop running and start observing the world from the ground.
And the quest takes shape almost immediately.
It does. He decides to spin the disaster into a story. Traveling by rail from sea to shining sea during the Christmas season, he's turning this enforced isolation into professional research.
And he anchors the whole journey not just to seeing Lelia, but to something deeper, right? To his own roots.
Yeah, he connects it to his literary heritage. He was one of the Elmira, New York Langdons, a direct reference to Olivia Langdon, who famously married Mark Twain. So the ban wasn't a punishment, it was fate forcing him onto the tracks for a personal and professional reckoning.
So now we know why he's on the train. Let's look at the train itself, the sheer reality of this transport system. He boards the Capital Limited, the CAP.
All right, that's the first leg, from D.C. to Chicago. And we really need to look under the hood here, because understanding the machine is key to understanding the journey's constraints.
It's a character in its own right.
It's monolithic. The CAP is pulled by twin General Electric P-42 diesel-electric engines. These are enormous workhorses. To give you a sense of scale, either one weighs a staggering 268,000 pounds.
Over 130 tons.
Each, and packs 4,200 horsepower from 16 cylinders.
So if Tom's emotional crisis was about a man breaking, the P-42 is the ultimate symbol of something that just cannot be broken.
You've got it. The sources say that what a P-42 couldn't outrun, it would simply run over. It's this potent physical counterpoint to the vulnerability Tom is feeling.
And that power is necessary, I imagine, given the size of the train. The consist, as they call it.
Precisely. The CAP's consist for this trip was formidable. 2 engines, 1 baggage car, 3 standard coaches, 2 sleeper cars, 1 dining car, and crucially, 1 dormitory transition car.
Okay, wait, why is the dormitory transition car so important?
It really speaks to the complexity of these modern long-haul American trains. Most of the train, the coaches, the sleepers, the diner, are these double-decker superliner cars.
They're huge.
Massive high-capacity units. The heaviest passenger train car in the world, in fact. The transition car is the bridge that allows the crew to move between those high superliner cars and the standard single-level engines and baggage car.
Ah, so without it, the whole thing is disconnected.
The flow is totally disrupted. It's a logistical necessity. And it just shows you, this isn't just a line of boxes on wheels. It's a carefully orchestrated, multi-level structure.
And even before Tom steps onto this complex machine, he sees something that hints at the drama to come.
He does. He notices some high-level VIP handling. A stretch limo pulls discreetly under a tunnel near the station.
Right by FDR's old train car, the Marco Polo.
And Tom realizes a big shot is being loaded using ramp access. The sources describe it as like sneaking movie stars through airports, all for maximum privacy.
That VIP, who we later learn is the director Max Powers, gets this cinematic treatment. Tom, on the other hand, he gets a rude awakening about the difference between Hollywood fantasy and Amtrak reality.
Oh, yeah. The Cary Grant effect, you could call it. He built up these grand expectations based on the movie North by Northwest.
He's picturing spacious suites, a foyer, a full bath with a whirlpool.
Maybe some optional servants' quarters, or an outdoor patio for dramatic brooding.
Of course. And reality, as always, is less romantic.
Far less romantic. Compartment D, his deluxe accommodation, was barely 2 strides wide. The sources are blunt. No foyer, no whirlpool, and the closet was so tiny it could barely fit his overcoat.
He has that great line that if Cary Grant and Eva Marie Saint had shot their famous scene in this compartment, the movie would have been rated XXX.
It's just an instant deflation of his entire romanticized view of this journey.
But the journey is made bearable and eventually profound by the people, the crew.
The human element, absolutely. The first person he meets is Regina, the sleeper car attendant. She looks young enough to be a high school junior, wearing a cheerful Santa's helper hat.
And she immediately establishes herself as more than just an attendant. She's an expert.
She is. She gives him the technical details, explaining the superliner and its weight, but she also shares this deeply rooted philosophy about the tracks. She tells Tom that trains sort of are like people.
How so?
She says you spend so much time on them, you learn their quirks, their strengths, their weaknesses. It's a way of humanizing this massive, imposing machine.
And that sense of community, it's cemented by the fact that for many of them, this is a family business.
A huge family business. Regina's mother, Roxanne, is the chief of onboard services on the next train, the Southwest chief. She has countless uncles, aunts, cousins. Even her own son is a coach cleaner. All work for Amtrak.
She says working on the train is something special for her family.
It's a legacy, not just a job, but a legacy woven right into the nation's infrastructure. It suggests that even in this huge mechanized system, there's this deeply human, multi-generational culture operating just beneath the surface.
I love that. So now let's move to the social hub of the train, the lounge car, where Tom meets Tyrone.
Ah, Tyrone. The bar manager and the keeper of the train's lore. He's a Purple Heart recipient from the Persian Gulf. Caught a leg full of shrapnel when a round hit his Bradley fighting vehicle.
And now he manages the lounge, serving up a notoriously dangerous cocktail called the Boiler Room Concoction.
He's the perfect source for that kind of confined space drama that can only happen on a long journey. He shares these great anecdotes like the fantastic midnight caught in the act incident.
Oh, tell us about that one.
It's a classic piece of train gossip. A man was traveling with both his wife and his mistress, who was in a separate sleeper just 2 doors down.
With a bold move.
A very bold move. He thought he had it all managed. He'd convinced his wife to take a sleeping pill. But she was savvy. She didn't actually swallow it. She caught him sneaking back into their compartment, and it led to this huge confrontation. It ended with the husband getting off the train in Chicago with, as Tyrone described it, a chewed-up butt.
It's a perfect example of how those close quarters just magnify every secret.
Exactly. But amidst the gossip, we also meet the technical sage, who will prove to be critical later on, Herrick Higgins.
Herrick Higgins, he's the true rail enthusiast.
He is a retired or laid-off rail manager who rides the trains at his own expense because he just knows and loves them. He's the one who provides the vital, non-intuitive technical context that moves beyond anecdote into genuine logistical insight.
And this is where we have to stop treating these details as just trivia and see them as systemic constraints that are going to govern the crisis to come.
Absolutely. Higgins explains 2 critical facts of modern railroading. First, the economics of it. Why does freight always have priority over passenger travel?
Right. It seems counterintuitive.
But it's simple. Amtrak doesn't own most of the tracks. They operate on lines owned by massive freight companies like BNSF or Union Pacific. Amtrak pays for access, but the freight carriers have these huge cargo loads that generate far more revenue.
So their trains always take priority.
Always. It means passenger trains, even the CAP, are constantly being shunted onto side tracks to wait for these massive, slow-moving freight trains to pass. It makes scheduling a logistical headache and turns a simple delay into this frustrating inevitability.
That fundamentally changes the whole experience. You're not the master of your schedule. You're just a guest in the freight world.
Precisely. And that brings us to the second crucial, non-intuitive fact about the engines.
The one that really sets up the crisis.
This is perhaps the single most important detail, the coolant system. Higgins explains that the massive General Electric P-42 engines cannot carry antifreeze in their coolant.
Wait, why not? In freezing climates, that seems like a massive oversight.
It's a matter of sheer scale. The amount of coolant required for a 4,200 horsepower diesel engine is so enormous, we're talking tens of thousands of gallons, that the expense and logistics of adding antifreeze would be astronomical.
So what's the alternative?
The necessary procedure in cold weather is that the engines must be kept idling. They can't be shut off. If they are, the massive coolant reservoirs will freeze solid, instantly crippling the engine and causing catastrophic, expensive damage.
And that constant need to idle means they're constantly burning fuel.
A detail that foreshadows the disaster to come when resources become scarce.
So we have a man running from emotional commitment on a complex mechanical system that's constantly fighting against the primacy of freight. And the whole operation depends on a relentless consumption of fuel to prevent a critical freeze-up. The stage is perfectly set.
And as the train keeps rolling, it becomes this literal moving laboratory for human interaction. The close quarters force these relationships to form and tensions to escalate.
And Tom's first major encounter is with his neighbor, the eccentric mystery woman in compartment E, Agnes Jo.
This first meeting is spectacular. She's introduced with a thunderous baritone, wearing what looks like a sleeping gown. And she sends Tom tumbling down the stairs with a meaty forearm while just announcing, "Coming through."
She is not subtle.
Not at all. And her whole profile is this study in contradictions. She claims to be a fiercely independent loner, but almost every crew member knows her, and she travels often to see family in L.A.
And she has this bizarre resume.
It's startling.
Yeah.
She reveals she's a licensed general aviation pilot and a former circus performer, a horsewoman, a gymnast, and a high-wire artist, though she clarifies she was a little lighter than.
A massive woman claiming high-wire experience. It's hard to square that image, which is exactly why Tom has trouble with her. And that trouble turns into suspicion when the thefts begin.
Exactly. When things start going missing, Max's Bruno Maglis, Father Kelly's Silver Cross, Eleanor's Silver Brush, Tom's focus immediately narrows in on Agnes Jo.
And why her?
Because her behavior is suspicious. She hasn't reported any loss herself, and her duffel bag seems unusually crowded. So Tom, acting on his old investigative instincts, peeks inside her bag when she steps out for a moment.
And what he finds doesn't make any sense, which only deepens the mystery.
Right. The bag isn't filled with stolen goods. It's stuffed with wads of balled-up East Coast newspapers.
It's a classic misdirection, a huge clue that only heightens the discrepancy between who she says she is, a simple traveler, and what she's actually doing.
Tom can't decipher it, but he knows something is deeply wrong with the picture she's presenting.
The mystery deepens. But the real plot catalyst arrives next. The film people. We finally meet Max Powers, the VIP from the ramp.
Right. A very famous Hollywood director, regularly in the top 10 of the most powerful people in Hollywood.
And his reason for being on the train, much like Tom's, is an airport meltdown.
But one with a much bigger price tag. He hates flying because of this chaotic incident involving a menthol cigarette in a lavatory during severe turbulence. The whole fiasco ended with him getting arrested and costing him $30,000 in legal fees and community service.
So both of the central male characters are on this train because of a disastrous interaction with airport security, and really highlights the modern tyranny of travel logistics, doesn't it?
It absolutely connects their shared trauma, even if Max's was self-inflicted and vastly more expensive.
Wow.
And he's riding with his young assistant, Cristobal Handsome, stylish, a film school grad who openly dislikes the train and dreams of private jets.
But Max loves it.
He finds it deeply inspirational. His own father was a Santa Fe conductor, so for him, the ride between A and B is the whole show.
And Max quickly tries to integrate Tom into his vision. He recruits him.
He does. He calls Tom a world-class reporter whose perspective would be invaluable for film research.
Yeah.
He wants Tom to team up with his writer to cobble together a train movie plot. Classic Hollywood synergy. Two bangs for one.
But the dynamic that Max introduces that truly elevates the plot is the nervous young couple, Steve and Julie.
They are getting married on the Southwest Chief because their conservative, disapproving families don't know and don't approve of them being together.
And this is where we get that genuine warmth and romance amidst all the chaos. Their inspiration is incredibly moving.
It really is. Julie's grandparents got married on a train right after World War II. Her grandfather came home, and waiting for local service would have taken weeks because of all the wartime disruptions.
So they just paid a preacher to get on the train and marry them right there.
And that enduring love, 55 years of marriage, they died within a week of each other. That's the legacy Steve and Julie are trying to honor.
But Julie is deeply anxious that the ceremony will be lonely.
And Tom, seeing that vulnerability and recognizing the huge stakes of a commitment that he himself has always avoided, makes the promise. He says he'll be there, and he'll bring his train friends with him. It's a casual promise, but it immediately links Tom's own journey of avoidance to this couple's complete embrace of commitment.
And this is where the narrative tension just accelerates sharply. Tom's internal drama, fueled by years of regret, is about to violently collide with his present reality.
Max introduces Tom to his script doctor, and Tom is left literally breathless on the superliner's observation deck.
The shock re-encounter.
It's profound. It's Eleanor Carter, the major mistake he regrets not marrying. And time has been kind to her. She's still tall, slender, with shoulder-length auburn hair and green eyes. It's still packed a wallop.
And she's now a highly successful writer and script doctor.
One of the best. She specializes in coming in when a script has real problems and needs a miracle on a short fuse.
Their shared history is long and intense. 15 years as journalism partners, covering every peril the world could throw at them.
Right, and their greatest hit was exposing the charlatan healer, Reverend Little Bob Humphreys.
I love that story. Tom even admits that during a moment of insane weakness, he gave Little Bob his last $20.
A sum that Eleanor was the only person, living or dead, ever known to have retrieved from Reverend Bob without recourse to the courts.
It perfectly encapsulates their partnership. He's the impulsive risk-taker. She's the grounded strategist who cleans up his messes.
And the tension when they meet again is just palpable. Tom brings up their breakup in Tel Aviv. She left so abruptly, claiming she was tired of covering world perils and just wanted to go home.
And Tom, the man who fears commitment more than bullets, refused to go with her. He let deep stubbornness fueled by anger keep him rooted in that nomadic life.
He watched her ride the escalator away. A perfect mirror to the time he failed to propose years earlier on a train from Cologne, when the engagement ring in his pocket felt like a cannonball.
And she's clearly not comfortable with Max's idea that they work together now.
Not at all. She tries to opt out, even planning to fly from Chicago to L.A., arguing Max's plan just won't work because of Tom. The fear of being back in his orbit is just too strong.
And this is where Eleanor delivers the crucial, raw truth about why they broke up. The insight Tom needed to hear but always refused to accept.
She tells him directly that he's a profound loner, only responsible for himself, constantly taking these crazy risks. She cites him being kidnapped once and almost killed 3 times.
She needed stability.
She states it so clearly. After years together, it was time to put up or shut up. She needed commitment, stability, and a partner who wasn't constantly inviting death. And Tom simply refused to give it.
And Tom, still defending his wandering life, says he couldn't be happy looking at the same 4 walls all the time.
But her counter is just devastatingly simple, or the same person inside those 4 walls. She points out that his true fear wasn't the stagnation of a place, but the commitment to a person.
So the emotional situation is now charged to its absolute maximum.
And that's when the undisputed king of bad timing, Tom Langdon, receives a surprise visit. They're outside in Kansas City, in the middle of this charged conversation, and Lelia flies in.
Lelia's entrance is magnificent, fitting for a voiceover queen. She arrives totally unexpectedly, trailed by this massive caravan of luggage. Her energy is immediate and completely disruptive.
And she immediately drops the bomb on Tom. She wants to marry him. She says her biological clock isn't just ticking, its alarm is ringing. And I've hit the snooze button so many times it doesn't work anymore.
She's done with the off-and-on relationship that Tom designed.
Completely done. And her demand for commitment is staggering. She wants a huge family, 1 biological child and 7 adoptions, all immediately. An instant family.
And Tom, facing this unexpected, monumental wave of commitment from the woman he is with, while confronting the regret of the woman he wasn't with.
He bangs his head against the window in shock. He realizes he's achieved a new high score for the undisputed king of bad timing, and he does the only thing he can think of. He runs to the lounge car and Tyrone's dangerous boiler room concoction.
The emotional intensity of Tom's personal life finds this strange echo in the communal drama aboard the train. The bachelor party that Max throws is interrupted by the discovery of the thief.
Right, and the victims were exclusively from the deluxe compartments, which suggests the thief had access or specific knowledge of the layout.
And the initial investigation goes completely sideways when this obnoxious lawyer named Gordon Merriweather gets involved.
Merriweather is designed to be unlikable, described with skinny marshmallow legs in blue bikini briefs, and he publicly accuses Regina, the innocent attendant, of the theft.
Which throws the entire crew dynamic into question.
Tom immediately intervenes, using his old reporter skills. He loudly claims to be a Pulitzer-winning investigative reporter, a slight exaggeration for effect, and threatens Merriweather with career-ending exposure for slander.
But their true revenge is far more elaborate and delightfully dramatic.
Tom, Eleanor, and Cristobal team up. They use a captured stowaway boa constrictor that had been found earlier in the dining car.
A boa constrictor.
Tom, with a dangerous smile, announces he has plans for a special friend. The three of them use the boa to booby-trap Merriweather's compartment, which he had foolishly left unlocked.
So they shove the reptile inside and flip on the light.
The chaos is immediate. Merriweather comes running out screaming, half-naked in his blue bikini briefs. The trio catches up to him, and Eleanor, showing the aplomb of a trained actress, pretends to be terrified of him. She accuses him of being a peeping Tom running around half-naked.
Regina plays along perfectly.
She threatens to turn him over to the police for disrupting the train, and Merriweather, terrified of the public fallout, pleads for mercy.
So they let him off.
On the condition that he retracts his accusation against Regina and promises exemplary behavior. Tom justifies it by saying it is Christmas. But for Tom and Eleanor, this collaborative piece of practical justice felt exactly like the good old days.
The successful bit of humorous revenge provides a brief, needed exhale, but it's swiftly obliterated by a legitimate life-or-death crisis.
The tone shifts severely here, from comedic caper to existential threat in minutes. The Southwest Chief, having added that crucial third engine at La Junta, begins its ascent toward the Raton Pass.
They're approaching the New Mexico-Colorado border.
The climb is already challenging, but the weather quickly turns lethal. They get trapped near Raton, New Mexico, at a surprisingly high elevation. 6,666 feet.
And Misty, the resident tarot card reader, immediately panics at the 4 6s.
She calls it the worst possible combination of numbers, escalating the passenger fear. But then the crisis becomes real. The chief is sandwiched between two massive avalanches. The tracks are buried in front of and behind them.
They're immobile.
Completely. And the third engine they added is useless. They're isolated, cut off from the outside world. Roxanne, the chief of onboard services, immediately announces food rationing.
But the immediate terrifying threat isn't the cold or the hunger. It's that mechanical necessity Herrick Higgins warned them about.
Exactly. The engines must keep idling to prevent the coolant systems from freezing. There's no antifreeze, so they are rapidly draining their limited fuel reserves. The failure to move means the engines will eventually run dry, leading to catastrophic failure and immediate sub-zero conditions inside the train.
The choice is stark. Wait and freeze, or risk a daring attempt at a rescue.
And Tom, the seasoned correspondent and expert skier, proposes a plan. He'll ski out in the raging blizzard to the nearby Dingo Resort, carrying a rough map sketched by Herrick Higgins.
And Eleanor, the woman who left him because of his reckless risk-taking, immediately demands to go with him.
She throws down the gauntlet. I taught him everything he knows about skiing. Despite Tom's protests, Roxanne, recognizing the intelligence of a team effort, advises Tom he'd be a lot smarter teaming up with this woman than trying to go it alone.
And before they leave, the emotional stakes are raised even further.
Eleanor reaffirms why she left, his inability to commit, his constant dance with death. But she tells him she's terrified and she's going with him anyway. She accepts the risk for the sake of everyone else, telling him, we'll make it back.
This is the moment. The commitment Tom avoided for years is finally being forged in a genuine crisis.
The evacuation effort is massive. All 341 passengers are moved into the safety of a nearby tunnel. The Amtrak crew is exemplary, but they have unexpected help. Agnes Jo, the mystery woman, demonstrates her secret skills. Her massive strength and circus experience make her adept at crowd control and managing people.
And Father Kelly, the lonely priest, leads a comforting prayer service, feeling the best he has in years.
Meanwhile, Tom and Eleanor are battling the blizzard. The physical exertion is immense. They push forward until they eventually collapse from exhaustion, almost perishing just 5 feet from the entrance of the Dingo Resort.
They're found in the morning by a young boy.
Which leads to a massive recovery effort. They returned to the tunnel in this horse and sleigh procession loaded with food and supplies, just in time to prevent a deeper crisis as the fuel was draining away. The accidental crisis has forged a true partnership.
And with the existential threat neutralized, the lighter drama of the theft can finally be resolved.
Tom encounters Agnes Jo again, and the mystery woman finally reveals her true identity. She's not a retired high-wire artist, but Amtrak police, undercover division.
So she was on a case the whole time.
She was tracking a suspect. She'd gotten his fingerprints off a beer glass and sent the ID request at a station stop just before they got stuck.
And the thief is Father Paul Kelly.
John Conroy, actually. A petty thief busted 34 years ago, but his life of crime stopped when he married his late wife. After she died, he was just overcome by loneliness and wanted attention, so he fabricated the priesthood persona to connect with people.
Now all the strange clues make sense. The balled-up newspapers in Agnes Jo's bag.
She was using them, along with a phonograph playing Christmas tunes, to simulate her presence in her compartment while she was actually watching Conroy.
And Conroy had ditched his own bag of newspapers to make room for the loot.
Right. But here's the core ethical dilemma Agnes Jo faces. Conroy returned the most valuable stolen items as gifts on Christmas Eve. Max got his watch back. Eleanor got her brush. He didn't intend to hurt anyone. He just wanted connection.
And Agnes Jo is in a quandary about prosecuting him.
And Tom, having just rediscovered the value of a second chance in his own life, advises her to give Conroy one too. Agnes Jo agrees. She lets him disembark at an unscheduled stop in Fullerton where friends pick him up, avoiding felony charges.
And when Tom asks her real name,
she reverts one last time to her quirky persona. If I told you that, it wouldn't be a secret now, would it, honey pie? The train finally reaches Los Angeles, and now we have to untangle this complex web of manipulation that brought Tom and Eleanor back together.
Right. The apparent coincidences that launched this journey are about to be completely unraveled, revealing Max Powers and Cristobal as the master puppeteers.
It was almost comprehensive. Max saw that undeniable spark between Tom and Eleanor, that painful, visible regret, and he decided he needed to force them to confront it. He intentionally manufactured a high-stakes, romantic environment.
And he used the train journey and that wedding as the catalyst.
Exactly. He wanted to make people who should have gotten married rethink what might have been.
So the runaway wedding, Steve and Julie, which felt like the most genuinely romantic part of the whole trip, that was completely fake.
Precisely. The entire scenario, the emotional story, the nervous couple, the disapproving families, it was all a Max Powers production. Steve and Julie were hired actors.
How does Tom find this out?
He finds Steve's wallet in the shower of their compartment, and inside is his SAG card. The minister was also an actor hired for the scene.
That is just staggering, a complete emotional setup. But what about Lelia's dramatic proposal? The demand for an instant family, was that also fake?
Part of the scheme. Max engineered Lelia's arrival and her massive commitment demands. He called it a good twist, designed specifically to force Tom's hand.
To make him face the ultimate version of the commitment he always ran from?
Exactly. He had to face an instant family of 8 to realize his fear was misplaced and his heart belonged only to Eleanor.
That makes Max Powers not just a director, but a sort of psychological terrorist, manipulating the deepest vulnerabilities of his friends for the sake of a perfect ending. But wait, what happened to Lelia and Cristobal in all of this?
They found their own path. Lelia and Cristobal, the 2 assistants who executed this elaborate scheme, are now a couple. The sources imply they bonded over the sheer exhaustion of managing the whole thing.
And Cristobal, fittingly, is already planning a new cartoon character based on the boa constrictor.
Of course he is.
So if Max manufactured all of that, what part of Tom's journey was actually real? What chaos was outside Max's script?
Max explicitly admits to 2 major failures of control. The only things he didn't plan were the initial travel agent error that put Tom and Eleanor on the same later train that was just an incompetent agent, and critically, the avalanche.
The avalanche was real.
The environmental crisis, the freezing engine, the exhaustion in the snow, that level of life-or-death peril was far outside even the most powerful director's influence. The genuine unplanned crisis is what validated the forced partnership.
And Tom discovers the truth right at the end. He finds the wallet, he sees the cast celebrating in Max's limo.
And Max, fearing exposure, tries to quickly explain his high-stakes therapeutic intervention.
But Tom's final response is just quietly powerful.
It is. He hands Steve his wallet and says simply, "Thank you." He chooses to embrace the outcome, the reconciliation with Eleanor, despite the highly manipulative means. He walks away, telling Eleanor the people in the limo were simply Santa Claus.
Because the emotional truth the journey revealed was undeniable, even if the tracks Max laid were dishonest.
And the successful outcome is confirmed almost immediately. Herrick Higgins is offered his old job back as a troubleshooter. Roxanne gets a promise of a future movie role.
And of course, the central resolution, Tom and Eleanor are engaged.
They agree to marry, but only in the summer. They explicitly state they want to avoid any future train-related avalanches. Tom's journey of introspection, forced by a flying ban and profound regret, ultimately led him to the commitment he spent 2 decades fleeing.
So what does this expansive, chaotic deep dive teach us? I think the key takeaway isn't just about the sheer mechanical might of the GE P-42s or the relentless constraints of freight priority. It's about the synthesis of the physical and the psychological.
That's a great way to put it.
Tom's personal life was a lot like that GE engine. It required constant, relentless activity and idling, globe-trotting, emotional detachment.
To prevent it from freezing, to prevent commitment.
Right. But that relentless consumption eventually strained his reserves to the breaking point.
And the nature of truth in this story is just fascinating. Knowledge, whether it was personal or logistical, was found in these layers of perspective. Tom needed to be stripped of his escape route, flying, and then stripped of his emotional comfort zone, Lelia and his independence, to realize his greatest peril wasn't a bullet in a desert, but his own stubborn inability to commit to Eleanor. The power of circumstance, whether it was manufactured by Max Powers or genuinely delivered by Mother Nature as a blizzard, was necessary to break through that emotional wall.
It was. And this raises a final, provocative thought for you to consider long after the cat pulls out of the station. If you knew definitively that the greatest happiness of your life, solving your deepest regret, finding your true commitment, required you to be deliberately misled, put through a terrifying, life-altering crisis, and forced to confront your deepest fears, would you still sign up for the journey?
Or do the best discoveries happen when you just surrender control, when you allow yourself to be moved by the tracks and trust in the eventual destination? Even if the conductor is an undercover cop, the priest is a former thief, and the entire high-stakes romance was manufactured by a Hollywood director with a god complex. Do we need a lie to reveal the truth?
A question that proves sometimes the only way to find your true direction is to be banned from flying altogether.